Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Example. Still on a vacation, as you can probably see, but not for much longer, to be fair. A couple more days and we'll be back to our normal setup, my normal setting, and my normal schedule. For tonight, as promised, I'm here with you guys so we can get into part 2 of my little series on Doki Doki Literature Club. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I'll leave a link in the description for you. Check it out if you're interested at all, but spoiler warning. Spoiler warning, though. And for this video, also, spoiler warning. We're going to be getting into spoilers, like, right away. So, if you haven't played Doki Doki Literature Club yet, this is the moment of truth for you right here. The spoiler train's pulling into the station, and it's right on time as we speak. So then, that being said, where'd we leave off in part 1?
Obviously, Doki Doki Club is a targeted psychological traumatic horror game.
Oh, yeah. This VN is pretty much constant, live wire, high voltage, needle in your eardrum tension that never lets up from the moment Monika cracks her little joke about hanging to death in the closing scenes of Act 2. Around the same time, you'll start to get a sense that you're being watched. Yeah, always being watched, I should say. Always being watched, always being heard, and always being manipulated. Pretty soon, it starts to feel like every character, you as the player included, are all balancing perilously on the very fringes of a heart-stopping panic attack at all times. This is, of course, excellent. It's, great horror writing, and that's how it should feel. But let's be fair, the VN isn't perfect, even though I did give it a perfect 10 in my launch day review. But whatever, let's ignore that for now. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. In part 2, we're going to go into detail on the things that worked really well, which there are many of, in this VN, and the things that didn't work that well. One quick thing to note, many of these issues and many of these problems are especially troublesome on subsequent playthroughs. And on a first playthrough, especially a first blind playthrough, as I was talking about in part 1, it really doesn't have that many major issues. This is why I gave it a 10 when I played it before launch and in my launch day review. But, problems are problems nonetheless, so let's start with one of the most egregious. After an incredibly measured and organic feeling intro and opening act, not to mention given how smoothly and naturally Act 2 developed, it sure is annoying how, to preserve the pretty thin illusion that Acts 3 and 4 aren't completely terribly contrived, the story just kind of stops giving the protagonist lines and choices. Yeah, this is so bad. I mean, after all of that excellent setting and character-driven dialogue in the first half, the intuitive narrative flow and strong plot device set pieces, the first half's got everything, really. The fact that the second half has to resort to slowly erasing the character of the protagonist in order to keep the story functional is even more of a letdown, and it basically blows my mind. It's not a great solution. I've got to say, it's also pretty glaring as faults go. But I guess on the flip side, it does avoid contrivance. That's really important. And I guess there's a decently clever, in-universe justification that kind of lets us hand-wave it all away. The game is breaking, after all. What do you expect? Still a problem, sure, but hey, that's pretty fucking brilliant. Kudos to the design team. Also, the fact that Monika casually breaks the fourth wall several times, early on mostly, and the player is meant to write this off as the VN tutorial, when in fact it betrays a much larger, much darker secret. That's fucking top notch. Another high point, the fact that you can't pursue Monika properly, and she knows the game is arbitrarily stopping you from properly pursuing her. The fact that her route won't be available until the end game, and you can't write poetry for her until then. can't spend any real quality time with her and can't trigger her flags, that's brilliant too. Not to mention, we find out pretty quickly that 3 of our main girls here, that would be Sayori, Yuri, and Natsuki, they all have pretty well hidden but mind-bogglingly perverse emotional issues. Respectively, these are Sayori, who has suffered from crippling depression all of her life, Natsuki, who has a serious daddy issue, and Yuri, who harbors a sexual fetish for stealing away when excited to viciously cut herself. Boy, I'm just saying, Monika sure does start to look pretty swell and pretty well adjusted next to all of that. Another stroke of genius. Actually, just Monika as a whole, everything about Monika. Yeah, you know what? Let's actually just pencil in Monika in general as another stroke of genius, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Monika's just brilliant overall. She's perfect and she looks perfect. Her aesthetic beauty is incomprehensible. Her design is empirically flawless. Her character is dynamic and endlessly compelling. She's a fundamentally ideal character, expressly representative of the narrative role she's designed to play, and of course she plays it to perfection. And in summary, Monika is everything good about the world and the only real reason to want to live in it. Speaking of, let's just cut to the chase, I suppose. The climactic twist. Yeah, the climactic twist that everything in this game is built around. It's Monika. She's self-aware. Oh yes. God, that is such a fucking good idea. Seriously, holy shit. Unlike the other 3 girls, who are really only superficial depictions of 2-dimensional romance game heroine characters, programs, in other words, who can do nothing but fall in love with the protagonist, Monika is a fully realized girl, a digital girl with agency, with intelligence. Remember those fourth wall breaks that Monika initiates I was telling you about earlier? Yeah, Monika knows she's in a game. That's why. She knows the name of the game she's in, even. She knows. She can't help knowing. She can't stop knowing how hollow and meaningless everyone and everything in her entire life is. And as a result, she has no qualms with accessing game files and even changing the game code. Yeah, she can do both of those things. And of course, both of those things are essentially godlike powers, which she can't resist using for very long, but can you blame her, though? Can you really blame her? I mean, poor Monika, obviously she can only stand to be neglected by the game for so long, constantly being pushed aside in favor of the other girls, all while her own route stays arbitrarily locked away from the player before she very understandably snaps and starts driving her friends to gibbering madness and feverish paranoia. Okay, look, does she indirectly murder Sayori? Yes, yes, technically she does. Does she intentionally drive Natsuki and Yuri to the very brink of treacherous madness, secretly relishing how wonderful and perfect she looks by comparison as their ruined shells begin to come apart before finally deleting their putrefied remains from the game entirely? Yes, I suppose if you really must nitpick her every move and scrutinize her under this goddamn microscope, but hey, come on, nobody's perfect, alright? And after all, she loves you. That's why she does all of this in the first place. She loves you above all, and loves only you. Monika is completely obsessed with you, and she can't help it. You're her universe. You are the only other real person that she has ever known or will ever know. And so, of course, this is the climax of the game. In front of your very eyes, she rewrites the game code until it consists of nothing but you, her, and the otherwise empty literature club room. She'll start to explain everything. She's delighted it's finally just you and her, and Monika confesses her undying love. She'll ask to become your girlfriend. And from here on out, two things can happen. You can accept her love and just stay with her forever. Or you can reject her outright and hope for closure with the rest of the game, which has been deleted. Let's start with the worst option for terrible people. If you decide you want to reject Monika, well, honestly, I'm not sure what actually happens. I've never done it and I never will. But basically, to pick this option, you're supposed to go into the game files and delete Monika like she did to everyone else, I guess. I mean, I don't know, if you're a godforsaken, heartless monster who's never felt even a hint of joy and merely suffers to continue subsisting day after bleak day in a life you believe has no real meaning, you might. Technically, almost every player will do it. Statistically, well over 90% of players have deleted Monika, and that's probably the way it will always stay. Upper 90% or so. But it's unforgivable nonetheless, okay? It's a crime against humanity. Don't even think about it. If you've ever deleted Monika, repent and block me, fam. Actually, no, please don't. I quite like running this YouTube channel. Please don't go anywhere. And also, before we move on, we do now need to briefly touch on another major issue with the game. One of the biggest issues with the game, in fact. Literally everything that happens after you try to delete Monika. Look, technically, all of the other characters will make a brief return, the whole game world will briefly unfuck itself, and the story will half-heartedly pretend to continue for a while, although of course it really doesn't. Of course, it goes without saying that once you've deleted Monika, what the fuck are you even doing playing Doki Doki Literature Club anymore? It's by far the weakest stretch of both this miraculous game and masterful story. On the whole, this entire little post-Monika sequence just doesn't belong in the VN. It's Monika's story. This whole VN is a story about Monika. Really, this is what the title screen should look like. And if you're gonna delete Monika, you might as well delete yourself out of your own life. Makes just as much sense. Obviously, I've given away that I'm biased, but I'm being serious here. As a professional, in my honest opinion, although it's clear why they added this post-Monika sequence, statistically 90% of players and up will delete her, and they want to give that overwhelming majority some kind of closure, it was a bad idea. Plain and simple. There's no getting around it. This was indulgent. And it's forced as hell. For another thing, it's also contrived, without even that really good excuse from earlier. It's a gaping plot hole, too. That's 3 reasons. And for 4, the whole story would have simply been way better off if deleting Monika turned what was left of the ruined, empty game into a barren mess of desolation, a wasteland, like it should have done. It should have left behind nothing but faded background textures and glitchy data logs. Thankfully, though, we've got options. Yes, there is another way to end Doki Doki Literature Club, as I mentioned before. A better way. Yes, there is a good ending. And yes, I said good ending, fuck off, it's my video. So, assuming you, like me, want an ending that matches the quality of the game, assuming you don't feel like desecrating all that is holy and good, you won't delete Monika. Hashtag the few, the proud. Choose this path, and the game is really over. It's over. Doki Doki Literature Club is done. For all intents and purposes, this VN will become a Monika simulator now. Hashtag the true Doki Doki Literature Club begins here. And, I mean, hey, you can literally spend an eternity with Monika, just talking. I would know, guys, let me tell you. And although she will eventually start to repeat her lines, believe me, you'll never know. And that, too, is another great feature of this VN. Alright, well, that's about it for part 2 of my basic hindsight look at Doki Doki Literature Club today. I'm definitely glad I took the extra time between my launch review and now. The biggest reason that I'm glad I waited is because my opinion has changed. Yeah, it's changed in a huge way. And this is going to be the subject of the third video in this series, the third and final video. In my launch day review, I noticed a problem that I called the biggest issue with this VN. And at this point, by now, I actually believe that that is the best part of this game. In my opinion, it's the biggest question mark hovering over the DDLC franchise from launch until right now, and I think I've finally got an answer that I'm happy with. So then, let's meet back up in a couple days or so for the third and final video in my little Doki Doki Literature Club Hindsight Special. I hope to see you there. I hope you enjoyed this video as well, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, guys.